Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Mayuko and welcome back to my channel. So I realized that it's July, which means that a lot of you have recently graduated college. And it made me think of the time in my own life when I graduated and I kind of just had no idea how to adult exactly. All throughout college and even when I was in high school applying to college, I feel like there was just so many resources and pamphlets and stuff around me about how to do college. There were seminars and things that kind of all explain how you get into college and then what do you do when you're there and how to make the most of your experience. And getting in these days is such a hard part of the process. It's gotten even more competitive over the last few years. So if you're applying to college right now, I feel for you. And once you get to college, however way you might get there, a lot of things are kind of set up for you. There's orientation events and icebreakers and roommate finders. And then throughout the year, they provide academic and career counseling. And then they also show you where's the best place to eat on campus or whatever. There's clubs and organizations that you can join with built-in socialization, which makes it really easy to make friends. College is a super nice sleepaway camp or something, except of course it costs about as much as a private jet to attend. And as you get ready to head off to college, you probably heard a lot of this proverbial college wisdom from just about everyone around you. They'll give you little tips and wax poetic, like how college is gonna be so different from anything you've ever experienced in your life. You're not gonna be able to get away with not studying in college. You better get ready for all the constant all-nighters. It's gonna be different in college, just you wait. But the really crazy part is gonna be the party scene. And all of this adds up to the point that when you're going to college, even if you're a little bit nervous, you just have so much information and advice at your fingertips that you kind of know what to expect. But then college comes to an end. And it feels like in contrast to all the advice you got in going to college, you get not nearly as much advice and wisdom about life after college. That crowd of wisdom givers and well-wishers basically goes silent. And that's the problem. Because as difficult as college is for some people, what we really all need help with is what comes next. Everyone talks about college in the same way because everyone who's gone to college knows more or less what it's like. It's one of the last real shared experiences that people can hold on to before they scatter to the wind after graduation. After graduation, people do so many different things with their life. Some of your friends graduate and immediately get married and somehow buy a house within a year. Others grow their hair long and live in a van for 18 months. And everyone in between does something slightly different. Traveling, fancy jobs, finding themselves, settling down, or none of the above. So you can't really make a pamphlet or a pre-written wise quote for the wild variety of post-college experiences. The closest we get to any proverbial wisdom with all of that are kind of memes that your cousin posts about adulting on Facebook every once in a while. It's people's experience varies so much that it's kind of impossible to prescribe general blanket advice that works for everybody. So no one kind of bothers. I suppose that's understandable, but sometimes it does feel a little intentional. What it feels like sometimes is okay, bye, good luck with your life. But there are such intense things that happen after college. In fact, nearly all the difficulties we face, things like emotional stress, financial stress, big moves in career and life and stuff, they all happen after college. So naturally, one of the biggest things that I've heard from lots of people in their 20s, including myself, is something called post-college disillusionment. Where college is this super magical moment and everything's fun and super challenging and you're just wow, there's so much that the world and life has to offer, that after you graduate and you step out into the real world, it somehow feels a little disappointing. But it doesn't have to be that way. I think that life after college is without a doubt the best part of life. Or at least it can be, because life after college can be anything. It also lasts something 80 years, and college lasts 4, so it'd be smart to make the 80 as good as the 4 or better. So what do you do after college? What happens next? And what are some mindsets that are really helpful to have as you move into the longest phase of your life? Well, let's start with the positive. It's that you get to design your own life. There's a day that happens after your graduation ceremony, after all the events and requirements and like meetings and stuff are over, after everyone is finished congratulating you and basically gone back to their lives, where you wake up in bed and realize that you're totally on your own. There's no one to really tell you what to do, no classes to go to, no homework, no dining halls, nothing. And you'll come to realize that there are literally gonna be hundreds of those days. And you have to ask yourself, what are you gonna do with them? That's one of the weirdly scary things about post-college life. It's the first time we're given the opportunity to truly design and build our lives from the ground up. And it can feel overwhelming, but if you approach it kind of slowly and like systematically, that freedom can turn into the best thing ever. And you'll come to really appreciate it. Like, I think it's a blessing in disguise. Take my word for it, I've been adulting for a while and it gets easier. So let's take it step by step. There's your work life and your personal life, both of which are obviously important for different reasons. Inside of those are things like your mental and physical health and ways to spend time, like hobbies and a social life. You likely actually already had some sort of structure that worked for you in college. Obviously, it's gonna be changing a lot now, but think of the systems and structures that you liked and really helped you, and kind of build off of that because you already have something you can work off of. And that's gonna give you like a bit of stability and familiarity during this time. So let's start with work. Maybe you work full time or maybe you freelance, but either way, you get to decide how much of your life you want to spend on work. So what do you want your work life to look like? A strict 9 to 5? Or are you more of a 12-hour-day hustler that wants work to be a bigger part of their life? Do you want to invest all of your energy into work or do just enough to succeed? Both options are totally valid, of course. You just have to choose which one you like, or if you prefer something in between. Like, you could log off at 5 p.m. or invest a few more hours per day and stay on longer to build your foundational work skills. And this plays right into figuring out your own personalized work-life balance, or in other words, how do you want to balance your work life from your personal life? And I gotta say, I know it's easy to like go full throttle when you first start work, but I really encourage you to pay attention to your body and mind during this time. When they feel out of sorts, like definitely take a break. We might not really know our like max capacity yet, but we all know what it feels to be overextended and overwhelmed. So take some preemptive steps, like check in with yourself to make sure that you don't get there. The things you do in both parts of your life will influence how the other feels. So find out what works well for you. Maybe it's a glass of water in the morning, a walk break in the middle of the day, eating a healthy lunch, or turning off your email notifications after work, which is what I do. Ain't nobody getting an email from me after 5 o'clock. It does take like actual work to manage your own energy and time so that you have plenty of both in and outside of work. So just be patient in figuring out what works for you. Remember though, that you get to decide what your balance looks like. So when it comes to personal life, one such shift that you're probably gonna feel from college life is maintaining a social life. This might be like the first time in your life, which I know it was for me, where you can't rely on the built-in socialization systems that existed in school. You used to be with people your age around you all the time, whether that be like in class or like you lived in the dorms or whatever. But now, everyone's in a different job and maybe even in different cities. And it's easy to fall in a pattern of going to work, going home, and going to work again with like nothing in between. If you're super outgoing and social in college, don't be surprised if you start to feel a little lonely, especially as things start out. But it's totally possible to build an entirely new network of friends after college. And just like everything else in this strange new life, it's all completely up to you. I've actually found that like post-college, it's kind of easier to make friends. Maybe it's because people in your same age range are like easy to talk to, and like the superficial cliques and like clubs and stuff that existed in school kind of start to melt away when you're an adult. And once you get the hang of it, it becomes really easy to find common ground with like people in kind of your age group because you've experienced similar things before. And I think part of why it becomes easier to make friends is like everyone's just trying to make it work, like life's hard for everyone, and like no one cares anymore about things like cliques and stuff. And you know, if making friends takes some time, that's okay too. You don't need to immediately find like your best friend 5 ever right away, because I found that in adulthood, like connections and like how you meet friends like becomes increasingly web-like. As in, I meet like one person and then they introduce me to like 2 other people, and then it kind of like spiders out from there. Of course, it won't be as easy to actually find time to hang out because of like work and like other life things, but it is possible. I think we all know, especially after this long quarantine, that in the age of the internet, geographic constraints are not a big deal when it comes to maintaining friendships. Just give it a little effort, schedule your hangouts, and utilize your weekends when you can. You'll be glad you did. So once you start working on your baseline and you start feeling like both your work and personal life is like starting to get kind of like a good balance, or like you're on your way, then you might start thinking about your life in kind of more of a macro sense. And even though it might be scary, it's kind of a good time to start thinking about what life you want to live and what kind of effort do you need to put in to make that happen. And one of the most important things I've learned after graduating from college is that you get out what you put in. There's a version of your life where you're pretty happy, you have a pretty stable job, you enjoy your normal life, but you feel like you're not quite as happy as you could be. And if you don't want a life like that, it's up to you to put in the effort to make your life better. The difference between like your pre-adulting life and now is that you're 100% responsible for how you want to use your energy in life. And all of the energy you put into something is gonna be all the energy you get out of something, if that makes sense. Sure, school is also kind of like that though. If you put in more effort, you'll probably learn more and get better grades. But there isn't a syllabus anymore. There aren't calendars and guides for how exactly to spend your time. No one's gonna make decisions for you or give you what you need unless you work for it. So you have to figure out a lot on your own. Now, for a lot of you, I know this is gonna be like the first time you're ever steering your ship, and I know that can be really scary and daunting, but I assure you, it gets better with time. Just move towards the things that mean something to you or bring goodness to your life in some way. For example, start to think about like routines that you want to build into your life that will benefit you, like focusing on exercising or your nutrition. Okay, so I'm gonna make an assumption here about you all. College probably took care of like food for you. You might have had a meal card and like a cafeteria and like different dining hall that you could go to at like 2 a.m. And as a result, it's likely and totally fine if all you can make is like buttered noodles and like garlic bread. I'm also sorry if that's the wrong assumption. I'm just making an assumption here for the video. But I have to say, there are some serious advantages that come with being able to cook your own food. You're more in control than you've ever been before, like the health content and like choosing what goes into your food and like choosing what you want to eat when. You get to like cook when you want and add the ingredients that you want. Like, that's so powerful. After I learned how to cook for myself in earnest and building the skills to do so, I'm pretty freaking happy with the food that I can make now. I'm not trying to say I'm like a pro level chef by any means, but for my imaginary restaurant where the only customer is me, I think I know my audience pretty well. We're responsible for keeping ourselves nourished and healthy, so I encourage you to find what works for you. This is your life and you can live how you want to, so try investing and putting your effort and energy into this and reap the rewards. You'll also at some point have to start thinking about like real type adulting things. But I mean, like, what even really is adulting? I guess it's just like being able to take charge and like owning up to and like taking responsibility for like your life stuff. You'll start seeing taxes taken out of paychecks, and you'll like learn what a W-9 is and stuff like that. It's all like, honestly, I think it's really boring and like kind of complicated, but it's okay. We'll figure it out when we need to. So spend an afternoon Googling like what is a 401k, and I'll tell you, like, you'll be glad that you did. That's one of those things that if you do earlier on and you like contribute to your 401k as early as possible, you really will get to reap the rewards later on. And when you get like really confused or overwhelmed by any of these kind of like adulty things, remember, it's okay to ask for help. The first couple of years in any new phase of life, in my opinion, is all about growing and learning. Technically, you're never gonna like stop growing and learning, but I think like in the early years of like post-grad is when it's like the most intense because you're just building your own foundation for how to do this. And because everything's new, it's gonna be a little overwhelming, but that's okay too. So there's probably gonna be times where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's okay, you're not supposed to. Like, a lot of people don't know what they're doing, especially when they're starting out. You've probably heard a lot of people say that, because it's true, like, it's true. So really, and it took me like a really long time to realize this, ask for help when you need it. Like, people like to help other people. Like, people love to explain things that they're interested in or they know well, and like you get to benefit because you get to learn from their life experiences. And don't worry too much about like if you're bothering someone. If you are, then they'll tell you. So like, don't worry too much and just like go for it. In fact, if you're in like a field or workplace where you have a manager specifically assigned to you, lean on them. Ask for like weekly one-on-ones and follow-ups and check-ins as much as you want to, or maybe a little more than you think you need to. Sharing with someone else that you need help does require a bit of vulnerability, and I know sometimes it can be scary because it can feel like a sign of weakness. But in reality, I think it's like one of the strongest things that you can do. Telling someone your worries can actually help to deepen the relationship you have with them, because it's a great opportunity for you and another person to really get to know each other and develop a shared experience. So remember, you're not alone in all of this. Life is not meant to be done alone, and there are plenty of people who can help you out in tough times if you ask for it. And this help is actually so important because during this time, more than anything, the subject that you're going to be learning the most about is yourself. Right now is the time to learn who you really are. So when you're going through this like big, huge change, you're probably gonna feel like all this like adulting and like realness is like getting thrown at you. And again, it's gonna be kind of overwhelming. And it'll feel like a lot of things are happening very fast. And to be fair, it is. But given that you get to design your own life and you get to put your energy where you want to, and that you can lean on others for help, this entire process really is here to help you learn who you really are and what kind of life you want to live. Through all the trial and error and like the mistakes and like trying to get out of your comfort zone thing, like you'll realize what's for you and not for you. There'll also probably be things that you're like, this is not for me right now, but maybe it'll be for me a few years from now. These are all such important cues to listen and look out for, because that's gonna help inform you where you wanna steer your ship. So I think it's really important during this time to make sure you're reflecting every so often on your own feelings and experiences. Maybe you'll set up a journaling practice to write your own thoughts and feelings, or a thought will randomly cross your mind while you're commuting to work. Whatever the method, you'll get to know yourself really well during this process. Doing this work will actually make it a lot easier to deal with the ups and downs of work, and then also make big life decisions when they happen. And you know what? Self-discovery process can take a long time. It's normal to feel pressure to figure out yourself overnight, to like know what you like and don't like and what you want your career and life to be like, but you don't have to. So it's totally okay if you don't have that figured out just yet. In fact, it's normal if you don't. Like, I mean, I'm still figuring out myself, if I'm honest. Like, I just remember I felt like I needed to have like a view or like an opinion on everything right after graduation. But you don't have to. Like, there's enough things in our life right now that like create anxiety that we don't have to add this huge like existential thing to our list if we don't have to. Remember how much time you really have. Like, you have a lot longer than 4 years. So you've probably noticed a trend in all of these pieces of advice. That's because it honestly all boils down to one thing. In this moment, you've started your journey and becoming more you than you've ever been before. Whether it's like the people that you hang out with, or the area you live, or the food you cook, or the type of career you have, you're in the driver's seat. That is a seriously powerful thing, and you'll soon realize adulthood is the best. So have fun figuring it all out, because you know what? It'll all be okay. Thank you so much for watching to the very end, and I hope you liked this video. So I believe that one of the most underrated tenets of adulting is to continuing to learn even after graduation. And one of the best resources I've found to help you do that is Brilliant, who is the sponsor of today's video. So you've heard me talk about Brilliant like all the time. Like they sponsor a lot of my videos, and I've told you a lot about what their platform is and what they do. In case you didn't know, Brilliant is a website and app built off the principle of active problem solving. You learn best while doing and solving in real time. So jump right into solving problems and be coached bit by bit until, before you even realize it, you've learned a new subject in STEM. So Brilliant has actually upped their interactivity level on their platform to a whole new level. Take this lesson about like the Pythagorean theorem, for example. You might remember from school what the formula is, but in this lesson, you're moving around triangles and actually proving that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. It's pretty cool stuff, and I think I would have understood like all of my STEM classes much better if there were stuff like this. And you know what? There's more where that came from. So if you'd like to join me and a community of 8 million learners and educators today, click the link in the description box down below or visit brilliant.org/hello mayuko. All right, everybody, thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!